Committee of Precinct Chairs. We need to mute that. There we go, awesome. If you could all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. And next on the agenda is roll call. If we could just go Precinct 1 and on.
Precinct 1, Christine Pratt.
Precinct 2. Anybody from Precinct 2? Precinct 3.
Precinct 3, where it all began, Dale Weber.
Precinct 4.
Precinct 4, Claire Montanari.
Precinct 5. Okay, Precinct 5 is not here. Precinct 6. Nobody here from Precinct 6. Precinct 7.
Precinct 7, George Brown, where it's still going on.
Precinct 8.
Precinct 8, Don Williams, Vice Chair for George McKay.
Precinct 9.
Catherine Holmes, Precinct 9.
Thank you. Precinct 10.
Precinct 10, Alan Costello.
Precinct 11.
Precinct 11, Frank O'Brien.
Precinct 12.
Precinct 12, Pat Adelman.
Precinct 13, Ron said that he was running late. If he was,
Yep, Ron's here, precinct 13.
oh, there he is.
Thank you.
lied. Precinct 14.
Precinct 14, Tom Begley.
Precinct 15, Wrestling Brewster, where it continues. Precinct 16.
Precinct 16, Pompey Delafield.
Precinct 17.
Joe Hutchinson.
And Precinct 18. Carmen said he was going to be late.
Okay.
So, that's awesome.
Can I just, we have no one here from 12, 5, and 6, and 18 so far.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next, I would ask for a motion for the approval for the minutes for October 7th.
George Brown,
Pat-
Precinct 7, so moves.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second. Since we are hybrid, we have to go through the precincts. Precinct 1.
Approve.
Precinct 2.
Absent.
Precinct 3.
Approve.
Precinct 4.
Approved.
Precinct 5. Nobody here for that. Precinct 6, I don't think we have anybody. Precinct 7.
Precinct 7 approved.
Precinct 8.
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Good man. Precinct 9.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here. Did
Good.
Pat just say we didn't have anyone from Precinct 12? Isn't
No,
Pat in
I'm
12?
here. I'm here.
Yeah, I think she,
2, 5, and 6.
And 18.
And 18 is coming late.
thank you.
Okay, we ready to move on? Precinct 10.
Precinct 10, yes.
Precinct 11.
Precinct 11, approved.
Precinct 12.
Yes.
Precinct 13. Ron,
Precinct
give a thumbs up
13
or
approved.
something. All right. Precinct 14.
Is he muted?
Give me a thumbs up if you want.
Yes, said yes. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Precinct 15, yes. Precinct 16.
Yes.
Precinct 17.
Joe.
Abstain.
Okay. I believe that passes. All right, we are on to Article 1. Before we start Article 1, I will let you know that 2 hours ago, I got off the phone with the moderator. He said that they were going to send out a updated motions booklet. I believe you all should have gotten that, I believe, like an hour ago. He said that it's very complicated. There are a lot of sub-motions and other things that are going to go on Saturday. So he was trying to keep us updated, let us know that there are a lot of amendments to the articles having to do with the charter, and that the motions that he had coming out would be the final motions. All right. We were going to do Article 1, the supplemental budget. I don't know if Lynn, I don't see Lynn. Is there anybody from the town to talk about the supplemental budget?
That
Mr.
would be me,
Brandisi.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brandisi.
All right, good evening, committee members, Derek Brindisi, Town Manager. I am here to present Article 1, supplemental budget on the general fund. This is to raise and appropriate an additional $985,727. I'm going to explain how we arrived to this number. So if you look at your handouts, you will see that as part of this article, the police chief is recommending to move $104,544 from the salary account to the contracted services account. So that's a net zero. So it's the same amount of money that's moved from salary over to contracted services. So there's no change there. However, where the change comes into consideration, you will see in your handout that we are appropriating the $1,145,130. That amount of money comes from additional state aid. So as you all recall, when we proposed a budget in April, the revenue source for state aid was level funded, so we did not have a proposed increase, because when we approve our budget in April, the state legislature is still deliberating on their budget. So oftentimes you don't get a final dollar value from them until usually June to July time period. You can recall that we did talk about the governor's proposed budget back in January, which had a net increase of approximately $190,000, so insignificant to our budget. So the good news is that the state legislature put in the budget an additional $1,145,130. So that's where that increase is coming from, but we have a decrease in the debt service for the pavement management program of $159,403. So the 159 minus the $1.1 million gets us a net increase of $985,727. So that's how we arrive at that number. And just so before you ask the question, this 985 will be, we're recommending to move this into the salary reserve account. And as we had stated during the budget discussions in April, we would share that amount of money with a 61% to the school and 39% to the town into salary reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Brandisi. Any questions from the chairs? Oh, hold on,
Can't let the town manager go.
hold on, Dale.
Okay.
Pat
no problem.
first.
No problem.
Can you just tell me, explain why it was moved from salary to contracted services? For
Absolutely.
the police department? Thank you.
Yes. So this is the program that the chief had started a couple years back. This is the co-response program where the chief has clinicians that ride with his police officers. So that's an outsourced contracted services program. When we developed the budget, we inadvertently put that $105,000 in salaries. We cannot pay for contracted services out of salaries, which is why we're asking to take that money out of salaries and move it over to contracted services.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Brindisi, so this article says that we're raising and appropriating the 1.145.
Yes, sir.
Is that not what we're doing now? Because you said we're receiving something from the legislature on that.
So this, that is a great question. Actually, I talked to our Finance Director, Lynn Barrett, about the other day. Any time, whether it's state funds or taxes, local taxes, we always have to use the term raise and appropriate. So these are not, this money is not coming from local taxes, but we still have to use the term raise and appropriate when we're accepting state funds.
So, as a follow-up, what is our current balance in the free cash account?
I have that. Give me 1 minute. So as you know, Mr. Weber, free cash was just recently certified on October 2nd. We have approximately free cash that's certified, not including any appropriation or recommended appropriation at this coming town meeting, of approximately $20 million, a little north of $20 million.
So, has there been any thought process to using some of that $20 million to not raise and appropriate from to fund this?
Local taxes? No, there's been no conversation of that. As you know, it is not a good practice to use one-time funds for annual ongoing operational needs.
But we're going to be using one-time funds at town meeting on several free cash items. Several articles we're funding with free cash.
And those articles, let's say it's an acquisition of a truck, I assume you're referring to, that's a one-time purchase. So once we acquire that truck, there's no additional expenses to that, versus taking, I'll say, $2 million from free cash, putting it towards the tax levy for salaries. We know next year we're going to have those same salaries, so we artificially reduce the tax rate for 1 year, and then we have to double that the following year. We have to account for the money that we didn't use this year, and then we have to account for the money that's going to have to be raised next year. So we have to do it twice next year.
Those are my questions, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from the chair? I don't see anything online. And I don't see any other questions. And I would move on to Article 4. Mr. Brindisi, are you?
I am. I
All right.
am playing the role of Finance Director this evening.
You didn't look like that.
So Article 4 is our annual capital improvement article. There are a number of requests that are before you this evening. You'll also see on the second page of your handout the sources of funding that are being proposed. As Mr. Weber pointed out, we are using free cash in some of these one-time acquisitions, but there are also other sources of funds. For example, you'll see fire prevention revolving, environmental affairs fund, and things of that nature. So we have a number of our departments that are here this evening that are happy to answer any technical questions relative to their capital requests.
All right, then I would ask if there's any questions from the chairs.
Yeah, I noticed that the largest, well, second largest really, is the water system improvements. And I'm wondering what kind of water improvements that's going to give us in the town. And basically the same question for Route 80 Cemetery. Is that for land?
Good evening, Bill Coyle, DPW Director. And with me this evening also is Diane McGuire, Cemetery Superintendent, and I believe we have Peter Gordon online as well for Water Superintendent. So to answer your question, the cemetery article, I believe, is for $3.4 million. It's already town-owned land, so that is to construct a new cemetery on Route 80.
Okay.
The two water articles, we have one article for $261,900. That is for the design of a booster pump station to provide additional water capacity to the West Plymouth zone. And then the other project is for the Cherry Street water main replacement, and that is $2,664,450,000. And that water main, I believe, was constructed around the 1930 timeframe. And we've had 3 water main breaks, I believe, since I've been here on Cherry Street.
So it's not really to accommodate increased capacity. It's a kind of a preventive maintenance type of a thing.
Yeah, for Cherry Street, we've had, again, 3 main breaks, so it's certainly for, we recognize that there's issues there that need to be addressed in short order.
I have one more question, and that is...
You can have a follow-up.
Thank you. There is a 72,000... Yeah, 72,000... Oh, no, never mind, I see where that comes from. Sorry, I'm done.
You were talking about the pumping station to take more water out. What is the capacity the state allows you to pump out of the water? Is this you're pumping from a well?
No, this is pumping from one zone to another zone. So it's the central zone that would be pumping from going to the West Plymouth zone.
Okay, thank you. But do you know the answer to that question?
Peter Gordon's online, he might be able to answer that question if there's, I believe we are permitted for a maximum amount of water. And Peter, if you're online, if you know the answer to that question, I'll defer to you.
Good evening, committee members. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
So our current permitted volume is about 5,400,000 gallons per day.
And do we come to that maximum?
It's actually an annual average. So some days we pump well over that. Some days we get close to 8 million gallons a day. But as long as the annual average per day doesn't reach over 5.04 million, we're in good shape.
Thank you.
We generally don't. We average usually around probably about 3.5 to 4 million.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the chairs? Anything online? Yep. I'm not sure who that is. Go ahead.
Ron Riley, Precinct 13. I'm just curious, at what point does funds come from the water sewer fund as to taxpayer?
Through the chair, to answer your question, these funds are coming from the enterprise account. So
Okay.
It's not from tax levy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All set, Ron? Anybody else?
Yes, thank you.
Seeing, and I just have, just to piggyback, so what you're saying is the Route 80 cemetery is to totally rebuild that cemetery?
It's a completely new cemetery. Right now, it's a wooded area.
Yeah.
It's town-owned land, and back in the 1970s, it was designated for cemetery purposes.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coyle. Oh, George, did you have something?
Yes, just for a point of interest, anytime a water main is replaced, it increases the capacity because all the sediment is now removed from the old main.
Thank you. All right, unless we have any other questions, we are, thank you to the town staff for showing up. Apologize to anybody who came that we didn't get to ask a question, but we'll save it for town meeting floor. Thank you. All right, we are moving on at a breakneck speed to Article 29, motion received. Charles Beautrain is making the motion. I believe Martha will be presenting.
Good evening, everybody. Charles Votrain, Precinct 4, Vice Chair. My wife went around and you put down, where'd she go? She's over there. She put stuff at your two-page thing at your spot, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. So I move to amend the main motion to revise and renumber the Charter Review Committee's proposal for Chapters 2, 3, and 4, inclusive of all titles and approved content, as voted under Articles, and we got this information from Steve, 18 and 28, as follows, and you have the paper. And each subsequent chapter will be renumbered accordingly, so therefore it makes sense. So what I'm talking about, and I'm going to let Martha come up, the heading of the first one is Chapter 2, Legislative Branch, Representative Town Meeting. Okay? You ready to talk? Thank you.
And as you can see from the handout
If you
here.
could just state your name.
Martha Votrain, Precinct 4, and member of the former Charter Review Committee. As you can see from these handouts, the motion is
Yeah?
Is Martha representing the charter?
oh, I should have
That's
clarified.
a good point, thank you.
I am representing myself. I'm
Okay.
as a citizen, standing here as a citizen.
Thank you.
So I won't say that again. The first page is our motion, recommendations for changes to only chapters 2, 3, and 4. The titles of the chapters and the renumbering and reorganization of some of the sections compared to what is on the second page, which is what the Charter Review Committee is recommending. And if you tear them apart, just like I did, you can put them side by side. And we hope to have a slide at Town Hall on Saturday where they're both next to each other like that. Also, in addition to the fact that this amendment only involves chapters 2, 3, and 4, and there is no change in any of the section contents. If there are some changes made on town meeting floor on Saturday, that's not going to affect this motion. Those changes will go along with the sections, regardless of whether there are changes or not. So this motion is simply a modest but no less important amendment to accomplish three main objectives: to preserve the charter order, or the chapter order in our charter of legislative branch of government, followed by executive branch. So you can see that in our proposal that Chapter 2, legislative branch, is first, and Chapter 3, executive branch, is next. And also to preserve the moderator section in the legislative chapter, as well as preserve the names of both legislative and executive branches in our charter. Keeping the legislative branch in Chapter 2 and executive branch in Chapter 3 aligns with other charter documents that address legislative before executive branch, such as our U.S. Constitution and our Mass State Constitution. This order of legislative followed by executive reminds us all of the importance of government by the people. The reason for keeping the moderator section in the legislative chapter is easy to understand. Just read the moderator section to see that it applies to town meeting, our legislative branch. where the moderator is included in the same chapter as town clerk, town meeting procedures, and the like. Naming in our charter both legislative and executive branches of government is important in terms of balance of power. The important concept of interplay between legislators and executive officials that contributes to good and effective government. When one branch is unnamed, the systems of checks and balances are in jeopardy. In closing, the chapter title Executive Branch does not need to be replaced by townwide elected officials, since that list can easily be included in a user guide to Plymouth town government. And the argument that executive branch title should be replaced by townwide elected boards and office holders in order to introduce an election process similarity to be reader-friendly ignores the fact that town meeting members are being asked to approve a charter document, not an election ballot. We urge you to vote yes on this amendment to amend, on this motion to amend Article 28, I believe it's going to be, or is now. So are there any questions?
All right, so we're going to take some questions, and then if someone from the Charter Commission would like to, would like to have any say. So I would ask, are there any questions from the chairs?
Yeah, I'm curious, you had said that there would be no change in the language, but the reorganization, as I see it really quickly tonight, you would have to rearrange significantly the order of inclusion of some of these subsections to get this done. So how is that covered in this?
Well, first of all, I didn't say that there wouldn't be a change in language, because in fact, there is. The language of townwide elected boards and officers is changed in our motion to executive branch.
But we don't have those changes.
But it's in the motion. I don't understand what you mean by we don't have.
Well, the text in each one of these chapters, how is that going to be reorganized?
It's not. You mean in each one of the sections?
Yes.
There is no change in any of that language. It's only a number change.
Okay. I'll continue to be confused.
Sorry.
Any other questions from the chairs? Mr. Costello.
Alan Costello, Precinct 10. My first question would be as Precinct 10 Chairman. I'm confused as to what we're talking about at this stage, and I would like to reserve some time as a member of the Charter Review Committee when that section comes up. But the heading of this two-page request talks about Articles 18 to 28. That's number one, right off the rail, incorrect. It's Article 19 through 29.
Well,
So
as of this afternoon.
What motion is this? What motion is this what article is this trying to target?
As I understand it, this afternoon, it would be 28. But
The change this
it was,
afternoon?
yeah.
There was a new motions booklet sent out this afternoon.
Per Steve, keep talking.
That's an existing article. There was 11 articles put forth by the Charter Commission,
Yeah,
19 through 29.
but
And
I
if-
guess
and
the
if one
numbers
of them
have
got-
changed.
One of them got, what was the term? Removed?
Yeah, so,
I didn't hear
if you
about
look
that
at the new motions that came out this afternoon, I believe the renumbering of the articles.
Within 48
And I-
hours of town meeting, they're gonna
Interesting that we're
renumber
talking
the
about
book?
renumbering.
It's not a charter article that's
What's
been.
that?
It's not a charter article that's been removed. Instead of being 19 to 29, now apparently the charter articles are numbered 18 to 28.
But you're suggesting for the last 2 months, for different presentations and caucuses, we've been talking about Article 19 to 29.
Yeah.
And within 48 hours, those numbers have now changed?
I didn't change them.
You'd have to talk to the moderator about that.
Is there anyone else that can at least clarify that it happened, other than yourself? Did it happen?
Mr.
legitimately
Chair,
happen?
excuse me, Mr. Chair, I can help, I think, on that question. I have it open in front of me right now. The document that came out this afternoon still has 29, Article 29 as the charter amendment renumbering. So if a change has happened for 18 to 28, it's not reflected in the motions document that we received from Jeanette this afternoon.
Thank you, Ms. Begley.
So, did he say that,
The numbering has not changed.
all right, so then it's, their Articles 19 to 29, and this motion is to amend 29.
Do you have a follow-up, Mr.?
Which
So
will
as
be-
a result of all of the activity on Saturday, up, down, things to change, they don't change, you're suggesting that when it gets to the town clerk, Article 29, when the town clerk's office renumbers whatever happens on Saturday, you would like these type of changes to be instituted?
Yes.
What would be the ramifications of all of the other work that the Charter Review Committee did? Are these all standalone things? If they change, nothing else is impacted?
Yes.
You think so? Okay.
I tell you, there's been a lot of back and forth.
All right, well then, as a Precinct 10 member, I'm more confused now than when I sat down, but I'll wait for the opportunity as a Charter Review Committee member. Thank you.
Is there any other questions from the chairs? Mr. Begley, do you have a question?
Yeah, I
Thank
do.
you for shoring up. The
I guess my one question for Claire, just a clarification. Since there are so many articles and various motions with all the different charter articles, is I guess something that Alan was sort of referencing in his question of just the sort of process behind the motion a little bit. So this would be at the end at 29 after we've already kind of gone through all the charter proposals and motions. But I might be remembering wrong because we've seen many presentations, of course, on these, but I believe it was Article 19 was for the ordering and format, right? So we'd be voting on the order and the formatting, like of moving it to, calling it, moving what is the executive branch to the elected town elected ones to Chapter 2 in Article 19. So say that town meeting chooses to accept Article 19 as proposed, so that their motion in Article 29 would be reversing an affirmative vote from what happened in Article 19. Am I understanding that correct?
That's what I understand.
Okay. And that was the moderator suggested that the motion be a motion to amend Article 29?
Yes.
Okay. And so if we got through all the changes, and regardless of like which way, say they just go through, let's just say they go through as proposed, right? It just goes through as proposed, let's just say for argument's sake. And then they get to the motion to amend Article 29. Your motion to amend would just be sort of changing the positioning of those back to the 2, 3, 4 as kind of currently is, keeping executive branch as the name for Chapter 3, but like if the powers of the legislative branch was edited from this proposed charter proposals, we'd keep that if it had been voted yes.
If I
That was
understand correctly.
Sorry, that was a wild question. I realized after I said that, but.
She's saying that she thinks you're correct.
Okay. Okay,
Good, Mr.
thanks.
Begley?
Just trying to understand the process a little bit for us when we go to vote.
The reason that this article, or this motion to amend was changed from the beginning of the charter articles to the end is that it would be less confusing this way.
So then, oh, sorry, Mr. Brewster, can I just have one follow-up there?
Yeah, you can have a follow-up. Thank you.
Thanks. So, if Article 19 doesn't pass and we reject the proposal to change the formatting and the ordering at that point, then does the motion to amend not matter at that point, and it gets withdrawn?
I don't know the answer
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
but I have heard that we wouldn't be discussing all the rest of the, are you saying that in the beginning, if Joe's amendment, or?
No, we haven't even gotten to Joe's amendment.
I know, I shouldn't, I don't want to get into that right now because Joe's coming up next. So, so can you restate your question, Tom?
Yeah, sure. So it's just I'll rephrase it a little bit. So since the substantive proposal in your amendment is about the ordering and using the executive branch, legislative branch delineation between those chapters, would we, if we were to reject and not, turn down Article 19 as proposed, then would your amendment then just be withdrawn because we've effectively preserved the ordering and the delineation as you're suggesting?
No, if you're talking about the Charter Review Committee's Article 19, if
Yes.
that passes, then
What he's saying is if we reject the Article 19, wouldn't your motion to amend be no? I'm putting words in your mouth, but I think that's what you mean.
that one I hadn't thought of. So I don't want to venture what the answer to that is.
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on.
Sorry.
I don't want to venture to answer that one.
So you good, Mr. Begley?
Yes, on that topic. Yep,
much
thank
as we
you.
can be. All right. Do we have any other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I was at the Charter Review Committee meeting when Martha brought up the ordering, and apparently it was a subcommittee that arranged the ordering. And I thought Martha's suggestion was treated with hostility, so this isn't a surprise. And I agree that the legislative branch should come, as it does in our state constitution and the U.S. Constitution. It comes first, and well, before the other branches of government. And I think we need, this new charter keeps talking about clarity, clarity, clarity. Well, I don't see any clarity in reorganizing the branches of government and taking out the executive branch and naming it under elected boards. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Begley, did you have another question, or did you just have your hand up from before?
Just a quick comment. I just didn't want to have too long of a run there without Pat being able to say her comment. But my comment was just actually not to my confusion over the process to cloud my support for the idea behind this amendment. That I agree with everything that Pat just said. and that I do agree with what is the spirit behind what Mrs. Votrain has been talking about in the amendment. I was just confused, obviously, as to what the moderator might have been suggesting was somewhat supposedly the easier way of handling this. But thanks.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions before I let someone from the Charter Committee, Martha, I just had a couple questions, comments. As someone who's gone through a Charter Commission, and being the minority, my question is, as a member, you brought up your what you thought should be changed, and democracy won over and you were outvoted. To me, it would be less confusing and less, if you had brought this up sooner, we would have had more time to ingest it. And that's my concern is there was a lot in the Charter Commission that I didn't agree with, but when we came down to the end, we didn't want to confuse the town of Plymouth with, well, I thought this and I thought that. It's just, can you speak to why this is coming at the last moment, as far as I see?
Well, I did struggle with the fact that I was a Charter Review Committee member, and I didn't want to be disloyal. But I realized that I felt very strongly about this one particular issue. Like all members, I don't necessarily agree with all the changes we made, but in general, I do agree with this charter review proposal. And the difference between the commission and the Charter Review Committee is I realize the opportunity is there to offer amendments because Charter Review presents their recommendations to town meeting. And that process is there, and it's a good process. I do think that the other motions that have been submitted to revise the charter articles, that's a good process. So as a citizen, I realized, well, I could participate in that process too. And I don't feel disloyal now to the Charter Review Committee. I'm participating as a citizen in the process that is available when a Charter Review Committee makes their recommendations. That process is not available when a commission makes their recommendations. It goes to an up or down vote that all the citizens participate in, townwide vote. So that's a different, I realized, process. And, you know, I respect all the commission members that were hoping that the results of the Charter Commission's proposal would be a little different, but they said that that was their last opportunity was to make the decisions that they made.
Okay,
Whereas
thank you.
I just have this opportunity, I realize, so.
Yep.
And I'm sorry that I didn't think of it earlier.
Right, and my
I wish
only
I had
comment was,
myself.
it's a lot to take in just before town meeting, that's all. Catherine, did you have a comment?
I do. I listened to a lot of the the charter meetings, and when this was discussed, my interpretation of this was that it was, quote, talked to as a renumbering of the charter. And it wasn't really clear to me when even sitting through the meetings that the language of executive branch and these, very important branches of government, that the language was going to be removed from it. So I think that in fairness to Martha and for the people that are reviewing the Charter Commission articles, I don't think that it was very clear that the language was removed until people started to really dig into it. So I really am very thankful that Martha's bringing this forward. Having talked to a lot of residents and a lot of town meeting members, this is really concerning that this language has been removed under words that it was a renumbering. And I think the renumbering, although I understand what they were trying to achieve, it also has, I think, put us in a position where we could very potentially lose a very important part of how we govern our town. So I like this motion, and I'm planning to support it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Unless there's any other questions, I would ask the chair or somebody from the charter, just because you're
Thank you.
changing roles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alan Costello, Chairman of the Charter Review Committee. I became the chairman halfway through our process when Mr. Golden, our original chairperson, was elected to the Select Board. I first want to address the comment about the hostile nature. I attended all but one of the meetings, and I thought it was a very good group of people, very productive group. There were a couple of heated discussions throughout the 15 months, but never any disrespectful ones that I witnessed. There was a working group that renumbered the existing charter so that town meeting members would have a side-by-side example of what they might be looking at. That group consisted of Mr. Bolton, the vice chair, Mr. Levin, the clerk, and Mr. Pizer, and myself, the four of us. And we brought it back, and right from the beginning, Ms. Voltrain was concerned about some words, executive number one, being sort of replaced with town-wide elected positions. The thought process by the four of us in the work group, what we were hoping to do, what the Charter Committee set out on day one, we wanted a document that the resident and the town meeting members and town administration alike could refer to easily and find out how this form of government, our representative town meeting, works. So what we decided to do was a top-down approach. We did town-wide elected officials, and that involved the select board, planning board, school committee, and the moderator, because the moderator is indeed town-wide elected. And then we went and did the legislative town meeting members after that, because it's more centralized to whatever your precinct or your neighborhood is. So as the resident or a first-time resident reads our charter, they can start to see how the government is set up. So that was the intent of what we did. But again, we treated Ms. Voltrain's concerns with respect. We talked about it, and we ultimately voted. And the vote escapes me at this time, but I'm going to suggest it was 8-1 or 7-2. We were going to keep it the same way. And then we went along with our business the rest of the tenure of the committee. We had a couple of meetings at the end. We had a little time, and we did some housekeeping items. And we asked anyone that had any concerns on anything that they might not have liked during the process, and to a person, every one of the 9 of us had something that got voted down that we would have liked. I know it happened to me on a couple of occasions. But like you suggest, as a committee, you go forward. But we had this time at the end, and we did some housekeeping, and we brought the whole topic up again that Ms. Voltrain's concerned about. And we talked about it under a new light, and we took another vote. And the vote was very similar. and she was content and probably disappointed that it didn't happen, but we went along and we put the finished product out. So if anyone else would like to add to that, that's the history of how this gets here. I have no objection, quite honestly, as a resident, if she wants to, or if anyone wants to have an amendment on town meeting floor, let's talk about it. Maybe there's a better mousetrap, maybe something we missed. But I think the problem with this motion as it reads today, it's very confusing, and to me, and I know a little bit about what's going on in the last 15 months. And to try to do this at the 11th hour, I think would send the whole thing into turmoil. And I would caution people to read it, understand it. If we want to discuss it Saturday morning, I'm all for it. But I think that it has to be looked at, because it could disrupt a lot of really good things that you might see come out of this Charter Review Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Are there any questions? Catherine, do you still have your hand up from before, or do you have a question? I'm going to take that silence as it's the before.
I'm taking my hand down slowly.
Thank you, Catherine. All right. Are there any other questions from anybody from the Charter Review Committee? Thank you very much, and thank you very much. All right, we are moving at our breakneck speed on to motion received from Article 10 to 29 consolidation. Mr. Hutchinson. I understand Mr. Hutchinson has revoked this, but he's going to talk about something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe Hutchinson, Precinct 17. I'm here representing myself, and I was a member of the committee. And the two were Martha and I, and so, I was in dissent. And just to go to your questioning about that, when I brought up the fact that I was in dissent, I got landed on. And so I decided at that point my best path was through town meeting, which is why I'm here. So there's that. And with respect to withdrawing my motion for consolidation, basically I got caught up in the motions mambo. The moderator, the town clerk, town council, and financial consultant are all of a team working on how to put the motions together. And I tried to characterize my my consolidation and didn't have any. I mean, I was not getting anywhere. I thought that I had it once, and I sent out a couple of notes to that effect, and I didn't send out any more because I was afraid I would just cause more confusion. And in fact, I guess it was Jeanette's last item, too late this afternoon to look at it, so I'm not sure what that says. But what I did do was file with the moderator a motion to speak on what was Article 19, which was what I think Alan was referring to, the format article. I don't know whether that's still 19? Okay. So that was what I was going to say a few words on.
I just want to clarify, so you asked the moderator to speak on 19?
Yes, so I have
Okay, so you don't have a amendment or an article?
It's, right.
Okay.
Is it turned?
The only reason I ask is because we have an agenda that says, talking about your motion.
Okay.
But if it is all right with the committee, I would allow you, 10 minutes to speak. If I don't hear any objection, I would allow Mr. Hutchinson to speak.
I have no objection. I would just like clarification. Did Mr. Hutchinson just say that the moderator is going to speak to Article 19?
No, he's going to speak with
I'm
them.
gonna
He's on the speaker's list.
I'm on the speaker's list, right.
For Saturday morning, you're on the speaker's list on Article 19?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. I apologize. I misunderstood. I thought the moderator was going to.
It's easy to get confused. Right.
So unless there's any objection, I'm going to let Mr. Hutchinson speak for 10 minutes.
Maybe Pompeo would know better, but, Pompey. Does this have to be under public comment if it's not on the
No,
agenda?
he's on the agenda. It's
Okay.
just he's switching what he's talking about. And Robert's Rules says that as chair, I can ask the committee. And I've asked the committee, and I have not seen an objection.
Okay,
So
thank
you
you.
have 10 minutes.
I just have one further thing, Mr. Chairman. The 10 minutes that Mr. Hutchinson's going to use is not any form of descending view of the committee. You're talking today as a resident of Precinct 17.
This is in no way to do with the committee. No. I'm not representing the committee, no.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
For that matter, I'm not representing Precinct 17. I'm here as town meeting member. Now, I don't know if that makes a difference.
No, it's Mr. Hutchinson is, it does say that you're chair of Precinct 17, but if you would begin your speech with all those provisos, and mention your name, I think we're okay. If you, Mr. Hutchinson, would mention that you were speaking as Joe Citizen,
Yep,
not on
okay.
behalf of any group.
No, got it. Okay, Joe Hutchinson, Precinct 17, not representing the precinct in any way, and also not representing in any way the Charter Review Committee. These are my own remarks as a town meeting member.
Yes?
Is Mr. Hutchinson speaking as not a town meeting chair?
I can repeat his point of order. The point of order is Mr. Hutchinson speaking as the chair of Precinct 17? Is that your question? Okay, Mr. Hutchinson has mentioned that he is not speaking on behalf of his precinct. He is not speaking on behalf of the committee. He is speaking as a citizen. You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, one final thing, and
Yeah.
I don't want to beat a dead
Mr.
horse either,
Costello.
but I'm afraid that this committee now, through you, Mr. Vice Chair, is setting a precedent that a resident can come in and speak for 10 minutes about a topic that may or may not have shown up as an agenda item. And I'm wondering if that's a path we want to go down.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll withdraw my, I'll wait until Saturday morning, so.
Okay.
Thank you for trying.
Okay, thank you. With that said.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Thank you. I just want to make a statement. We, as town meeting members, have received consternation over the years from people accusing us, as town meeting members, some of us, as coming into the town meeting forum and sitting down and peeling open our documents for the first time. And I always resented that, but I'm here tonight to say that I'll probably be looking like one of those people on Saturday morning with the confusion that has generated here. I mean, look at my stuff in front of me here, and I still can't, well, I got some of Alan's spilling over here. So get on your own side. So what I'm saying is, this is the definition of confusion. And I'm hearing that Charles Votrain made an amendment, Martha Votrain spoke to it, and I heard the name Mr. Trifoletti wanted this. And so what I'm saying is, and all, with no disrespect at all to the Charter Review Committee, these people did a lot of work, and they came up with a document. But now, we're faced with amendments, I think there's 5 or 6 in the latest amendment that came out this afternoon. And as I was going through all this, I was comparing that to the town meeting book, and I was comparing it to the town meeting charter review that's in the town meeting book. It's a whole new document. And what I'm saying is, I hope the Charter Review Committee understands that when it gets to the confusion level that it's at right now, that's a no vote coming. And I know that the Charter Review Committee needs a 2/3 vote. So what I'm saying is, this is a slippery slope, and I apologize to the past chair, David Golden, the more recent chair, Alan Costello. But right now, I'm a no vote on this. And I'm doing it because I'm not following the bouncing ball on this right now. And I've only got about 36 hours left to go. And I haven't even reviewed this document that came out today from Jeanette with all the amendments and their intent. But I can see that there will be a lot of people from the public, if they're watching, that will look in and look at our town meeting process and really say that this is flawed. But that's my comments, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Like I said, 2 hours before this meeting, I was called by the moderator who echoed your concern. And he had given a limit to what time motions and everything should come, and I echoed your concern back to him that I think that we should look at the limit of when motions can come, and things like this, which are major changes. I've always said that, you know, when things come to town meeting the night before and we get it at town meeting floor, I'm like you. That's a no. I haven't even looked at it. So I echo that. Ms. Holmes, do you have your hand up still, or is this
Yeah,
new?
I think Dale's spot on. And I guess my comment would be this. I think it's important to remember that people can make motions right up and on the town meeting floor, and that is part of our democratic process. So what this says to me in all these last minute motions that we're getting is that the more people read into this and the more they have their caucuses and the more they discuss it internally with their residents and among their town meeting members, that they're finding issues with the way that the language is outlined in the charter. And I think that's why we're getting all of these motions that are coming forward, because people either don't understand it or they don't like what they're reading and they want to see changes and they want it to be discussed and voted on the floor. That's going to be really painful. And I think we're going to need the moderator's clarity once he gets all the motions to be able to put this in an order that at least we'll be able to understand. And since we are getting data that is right before this meeting and we haven't had time to absorb it, I think we need to take a step back and let the chairs go back and read the new motions book that just came out. And then, you know, we literally have 48 hours here before we're going to be talking about it. But I think there's a lot of concern around the language of the charter, and we've already gone through 2 different charter groups, so this is a bear to fix. So thank you, Dale, for your comments, but I think that we don't want to be saying that we don't want motions to be coming forward. That's how we operate. Unfortunately, we're looking at a series of articles that are very confusing. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, and I would again mention that the moderator said that this was very complicated and that he was trying to, that's why it took till this afternoon to come out with those in motions. All right, unless there's anything else on this subject, I would move on to new business. Is there any new business to be heard? Yes, Pat.
I would just like to acknowledge a longtime Conservation Commission member and a Cedarville Steering Committee Chair, Jerry Hooker, has passed away. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Any other new business? I would move on to old business. Other than this Saturday at 8 o'clock, there's a big meeting. Then I would move on to public comment. Is there any public comment? If you could step up to the mic. Please state your name and...
Yes, I'll state my name. My name is Len Levin. I'm a member of the Charter Review Committee, have been on it since its inception, and I had the honor for the last 5 or 6 months to be the clerk. And as I've said at many presentations, I've probably read the charter more than anybody else in this town. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee. I'm speaking on behalf as a citizen of the town of Plymouth. And when we started this process, we outlined 4 or 5 goals that we wanted to have as the outcome of the document that you've had before us. And we felt that it was necessary to try to clarify what the document was trying to accomplish when you read it. And the analogy that I would use is, it's like watching a TV series. You'd start at season 1, episode 1. You'd read past page 3, and all of a sudden you'd be at season 9, episode 10, and then you would jump back. In my opinion, it was almost unreadable in its present form. I also heard in the conversations that people told me and hearing people talk about it, in my mind, there was this perception that the charter was for the town meeting members. I don't think so. That's just my opinion. The charter is the constitution of the town, and it's for the citizens. So the audience that we were trying to create a document for was the citizens. You guys are all citizens. You happen to be town meeting members, but primarily you're citizens. And so it's a much bigger audience than just for the town meeting members. And the other comment we heard was about transparency. There were certain things in the way the charter was written and committees were organized, that were counter to full transparency. Everybody would like to know how their government is working, how it's organized, how committees are appointed. And we did a few things to hopefully solve that problem. Probably the most interesting one, and the one that's gotten most discussion, was the appointment of the A&F. And while what we proposed, some people thought was cumbersome and had areas of conflict of interest and other things, the outcome has that we are now that process is more than likely going to change. Might not be exactly what we proposed, but it's going to change and it's going to become much more transparent. So even without us getting it to the point where it was voted on, we've gotten people to have those conversations, which haven't happened from my understanding, talking to people, haven't ever happened. One of the other controversial parts of the charter revision was, I call it paragraph D. I was the proponent for taking that out for a couple reasons. We had decided and I'm saying the royal we, that we were going to take the operational part of the charter. The charter is a constitution, it's not an operation document. And I felt that paragraph D was an operation statement. But I'd also heard about this idea of consolidation, combining, whatever you want. It created an awful lot of conversation, and guess where we are? We are at a place now, without, again, passing anything, people are starting to talk about that. I heard people say, oh, we haven't talked about it in 20 years. We've been trying to do it for 20 years. So I lived in a community that did that. It took them a while to do it. It's not an easy job, and they did it. But the last thing I want to say is, it's just amazing to me, this kind of relationship between school and the town. We talk about it like it's two separate entities. And the last time I checked, the schools were in Plymouth. We all should have the same goal to do the best we can for the citizens. And lastly, what I have to say is, I heard a lot about, well, this is what we did 20 years ago, this is what we did 15 years ago, been here, been there. I think it's time we stop looking to the past and we look to the future. Because if you don't, your jobs will be gone. Because this idea that what we did 15, 20 years ago is not going to make this town is big enough and strong enough. It's going down the tracks on its own pace. And as much as we'd like to stop it and have it turn here or turn that, it's just this big entity that's moving down the tracks. And unless we as citizens get together and give the citizens the tools to help run this town, it's a $300 million enterprise, then we'll see what happens to the town of Plymouth. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Lawler, please state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time. Tim Lawler, 60 Rocky Hill Road. I am also a member of the Charter Review Committee. I also, along with the 8 other members, sacrificed and dedicated 15 months of our time to developing this document. Mr. Weber has it correct. He should be confused. I want to bring up something very important, Mr. Chairman. The committee was put together under a democratic process. We were chosen to represent a committee, 9 of us. Within that committee of 9 people, we voted in a democratic process, and you started to allude to that, with a majority of the participants in the committee won the argument or the motion or the article, and we moved on. It was a process that was put in place. My question is, 15 months of my time and 8 other people's time was put into this under a process that was agreed upon. And then, by the way, agreed upon all the way down to the point of accepting the document to present to town meeting. And it was voted on with a majority. And because there were members that voted no, their vote no becomes sour grapes, and they're allowed to bring their dissenting opinions into play? Is that how a democratic committee works? Why did I spend 15 months of my time, along with the 8 other members, to have a committee fall apart the way it has, and to develop confusion? We presented unanimously, so strike that, with a majority of vote that this document was to be presented to town meeting. And that's the way the committee was put together. And the dissension is allowed to present itself and distort. I'm having second thoughts on volunteering again for any other committee within this town, if that's the way it works. Because it's unfair. And it doesn't seem right. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lydon, please state your name.
Steve Lydon, Precinct 17. I'd like to thank the committee, the Charter Committee, for everything they did and the time they put in. I attended a few of the meetings, but I watched a lot on Zoom. I said they did a lot of work, and I want to thank them for that. And as far as the confusion, there's confusions. And this is ridiculous that we're getting stuff now. I'm a town meeting member, that I'm getting stuff now at the last hour and expect to vote on it. You know, the selectmen set the warrant. It opens, it closes. We should have something like this. You know, the moderator said, this is, you have, I mean, he had plenty of time from the time the warrant closed, you know, until now. The books have been out for 2 or 3 weeks. There was no reason why these motions, these amendments shouldn't have been brought up before you guys and before us a long time ago, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, not 48 hours. I mean, today, the other day, I was sick, my wife picked up the mail, and I got a 9-page, you know, motion. I mean, 48 hours, I mean, this is crazy. You can't process stuff intelligently and honestly unless you have the paperwork in front of you, and you have time to absorb it, time to ask questions, time to go to the precinct chair, time to go to, you know, the moderator, give him a call, or town staff. We didn't have any time, you know, town meetings had no time to do this. And it's a last-minute thing, and I kind of agree. I'm a chairman of a committee, and I'm on several committees, and I don't agree all the time what happens at the committees that I serve on. I'm a chair of one, and if that's the majority of the vote, then so be it. You know, but there does seem to be some sour grapes, and I'm sorry about that, but to say that, but I kind of feel like that, and I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DiNardo from Plymouth.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Al DiNardo, Precinct 17. You know, I've been in town meeting 35 years, and I've been very confused the past week. I had heard that there was a motion this week to consolidate all the articles and vote no. Matter of fact, I got a mailing this afternoon, vote no on this afternoon. And, you know, a charter is like putting a big addition on the house. You have to talk to the husband and the wife about it for a while. It's just, we have to digest this stuff. So I was just very surprised. I had asked our chairman of Precinct 17, who serves on the committee, weeks ago if I could review documents ahead of time. We need to look at that. I do want to say, being relatively new to the town, I did attend the Charter Commission's meetings when I first came here, and most of the Charter Review committees, just about all of them. And I made some suggestions on both. And I have to say, being a nobody or new person in town, they were very professional and very gracious. Matter of fact, they dovetailed some of my ideas in those things. So, and unfortunately, there weren't many people attending the Charter Review Committee meetings. Those were public meetings. You have a right to speak at those meetings. That's when a lot of this stuff should have been done. This is why we have those meetings for a year or 14 months, so we can digest this. We don't do it in 18 days, because we change authority, just like town meeting takes 2 weeks for us to meet. Why? We have to digest things, because we can cause a lot of harm to somebody if we pass a bylaw too prematurely. Same thing with a charter. So, in closing, we'll see what happens Saturday, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DiNardo. Any other public comment? Then I would entertain a motion to close. I have a motion and a second. Any opposition? Thank you very much, everybody. The next meeting for COPC will be 11/21. Thank you.